my parents decided not to send me to the formal schooling. So I was kind of homeschooled. So, but I think I started to appreciate the whole concept of nonviolence probably in later years, probably in last 4 5 years, I would say, because that was the time where I kind of realized how my life is interconnected, and and also in a way, existence of my life is in a way direct result of the contributions made by all other beings in the world. So this realization, in a way, made me to understand how individual good is embedded in the good of all, and any work or act that I do should on in line with this. Basically, should lead to good of all without any kind of expectation, and that's exactly what Gandhi calls the act of love or act of dharma. So Kumarappa was when he was talking about natural order as a cosmology, basically as a worldview, he was kind of exactly saying what modern ecologists are saying. In a way, kind of life is interconnected. You really cannot see it in isolation. And there is a relationship between human beings as well as to an insect, to a plant, to an elephant. Everything is just so interconnected. That's how it functions. This is exactly what Kumarappa was saying in early 1930s. And and also for him, it was not just a material connections, but he also tries to kind of carve out a moral element out of this material understanding. That is the beauty of Kumarappa, I would say, because he says that when the life is interconnected, then we have to perform ourselves in a particular way, right? It should be non-violent, or it should act of love, because you really cannot be thinking about only about yourself, because your existence itself is the kind of contributions made by all other beings in the world. So basically, drawing this moral elements from material understanding, I think I would say that's the beauty of Kumarappa. So that's why his whole larger worldview, what natural order, what he talks, it was always about a moral and material project. It was never just a material worldview. It's a both moral and material worldview in a way. Yeah. I would see non-violence more as an active sense of, active sense of love. What Gandhi was saying, I think that is much more appropriate rather than negation of violence, right? So it's a
Absolutely.
more active sense of love,
Yeah.
and that's how I see it. And if you see in that perspective, I think there is so much of possibilities out there, right? Even though human nature, it has two dimensions to it. One is the self-interest and the violent,
Hmm.
and the other one is non-violence or the act of love. It's kind of manifesting on our everyday life. So
Yeah.
that's also true.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a scale. So where you stand yourself,
Yeah.
and so that basically that's how I personally understand non-violence. Today, kind of everything is modern economics is kind of economy is driven by fossil fuels.
Hmm.
And we have kind of two, three big problems with the fossil fuels, as everybody knows. So one is that it's completely non-renewable. So that is a one big problem. And the second is there is a huge environmental impact in the whole process of taking out the oil from the sources and using it. And the third one is very few people have control over these resources, right? So it indirectly creates kind of an hierarchy.
Yeah.
So I see Khadi as an alternate to this, because human energy. Why I find Gandhi and Kumarappa, or their emphasis on physical labor is just so essential today, because physical labor or human energy is the only energy source that everybody has access to it, and is completely renewable and very least impact on the environment. That's why I see, as Uzrama was saying, any enterprise or any livelihood activities that drives primarily based on human energy can actually lead to a much more sustainable and equitable future. I really like to see the decentralization of power. Today it's for various reasons. It's kind of in a global level. It's in the hands of very few rich countries like US and Europe, and I feel that that needs to be dismantled. And I feel that to do that, I think there is a strong role of satyagraha is out there. Whatever the non-violent resistance, I think needs to be strengthened. And I feel that through that, through the mass movement, I think I wish to sort of in a way dismantle this centralized power structure.
Yeah.
And the second one is definitely in terms of economics. I really need to see much more focused on self-sufficiency rather than efficiency. Right? Today, modern economics is driven by efficiency. In set limit, how much you produce and how much you consume and how much you throw, that becomes a criteria.
Yeah.
But instead of that, as Kumarappa was saying, it should be based on self-sufficiency. It should be about reducing the distance between producer and consumer. The alienation from nature, I would say that is the root cause for all these larger problems. I think if we reconnect back with nature and if we start understanding how nature functions and how we are part of nature, essentially doing it as a duty, as a dharma, without any expectation, I think that's very, very important insight of what Gandhi says. This whole connection between means and ends, right? He says that as human beings, we really don't have control over the outcome. It's only about the means that we have, very limited control. So that's why you should be able to enjoy that whole process of doing it rather than expecting something out of it, right? So I think that understanding really personally helps me to sort of still move along between all this chaos and the the larger forces. So I would say.